we have Duncan Robinson from the Miami Heat. He won the tiebreaker that we set aside, and Robinson's, and that might be a lot of recency bias on us. That might be a lot of what we've seen in the playoffs rubbing off on our rankings for the year. Because if before the bubble started, we're probably talking about Bogdan being a better player, but now it was a real discussion.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan Robinson, Chris Paul said it best himself on the Reddit podcast. Again, to bring that up is like that guy could flat out shoot, man. Like Duncan Robinson, yeah, of course, his first year in the league,
Shooter.
a bit down, but I mean, last year, what a sniper! A guy who shot basically as good as Reddick in terms of the 3 point. I think he was 93% from the free throw line as well. This is a guy who consistently, like, we could even, they talk about 50, 40, 90 club. Like, this guy might go 50 and 90 one year in terms of free throw percentage. Like, he is just a pure sniper. I didn't have a much higher because I feel like there was, of course, some games that he was great in the playoffs, but there were some games where he was very down as well. So I feel like other than three-pointer, he doesn't, like, in terms of being a great shooter, he doesn't have a lot of other elements to his game versus a guy who we're going to see later on his same team who I feel like is a much better rebounder, is just a pure sniper when it's in the clutch, is a winner. Duncan Robinson probably, though, again, like Reddick, is easily one of the best shooters at his position.
Yeah, and he really came out of nowhere after that first year. You have to taking advantage of the opportunity of that team losing a player like Richardson and opening up a lot of minutes there at the shooting guard spot. And he was really able to and succeed at that spot in the minutes he was given. And like I said, he showed that he's a great shooter. To me, he's going to have a long career in this league because to me he's very similar to, at worst, a player like Kyle Korver. At worst, and Kyle Korver was still a borderline all-star in his prime. So I think that Robinson's going to have a long career. I think that Miami's being very smart by not including him in a Harden trade, just because that might limit them in their potential in 5+ years from now. When Robinson, I think his potential, considering what he's shown at certain times, can be up to like a Ray Allen or Klay Thompson level. He might have to improve defensively to be Klay Thompson level, but his shooting was like reminding me of a player like Allen.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely hard to, again, put him in that same category because those, a guy like Klay Thompson is all NBA defensive, but at the same
that's the thing. Right? That's the difference.
But at the same time, it's not like Robinson's a bad defender. He was second in the league in defensive RPM among shooting guards we qualified. He was also second in wins added. So it's not like it's a guy who struggles on the defensive end. It's not like a guy who we'll see later on this list I'll mention who the defensive RPM is really a lot different from his offensive RPM. He doesn't do a lot of things wrong on both ends of the court. We see that. Again, going to the Reddick comparison, true shooting percentage, Reddick was second for players 20 minutes or more a game. Robinson was first. So I mean, to be above a player like JJ Redick like that in your second year,
already in the first year, he was actually given a chance.
Exactly, that's what I mean. A guy who's actually playing more than 20 minutes per game, and he's better, like in terms of more, just a slightly more efficient than a guy like JJ Redick. Like that's fantastic. It's not a guy who, even though, like I said, maybe not played to the level of hero in the playoffs, he didn't play bad in the playoffs. He had a couple games that if it wasn't for Duncan Robinson, that team wouldn't have won.
They're not in the finals, yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, there's not a lot bad that I could say about him either in that regard, and not a bad passer either.
No, and I think he's a perfect player to be playing alongside Bam and Butler. Just the fact that they need that outside threat to keep that defense honest, and Robinson definitely does that.
Absolutely, a guy who I think both of us know they're definitely going to see in this list moving forward. Even with that being said, like yes, we do have two players from that list on this list today, but I think in the long term, because the other guy we have on the list is such a better rebounder, we might see him move up to small forward because there's so many small ball teams. We had Durant at power forward, we had Jimmy Butler at small forward on our last list. To say Jimmy Butler can't play power forward against guys like Durant and a guy like Robinson can't stay at shooting guard and Hero move up to small forward, definitely very possible.
And that might be what the closing lineup is this year, right? We don't know.
Absolutely.
So I think that's going to be he'll be a great fit on that team and pretty much any team. And he's a player I can definitely see crack the top 20 next year because there might be some other guys that might regress a little bit. But even if he puts up the same numbers again, it shows us that he can consistently do this at this level. then that just goes to show how undervalued we have him right now.
Of course.